Okay, am I good?
You're good. It's all
Okay,
yours.
welcome everyone. Doug, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I happen to be at a customer's office and we got tied up here, so I hope you'll forgive me for being a few minutes late. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our main meeting of Aviation Airport Activities. We're very proud to have Doug Pickford with us, and if I may introduce him, Mr. Pickford has worked in the public and private sectors practicing transportation, land use, environmental planning for over 35 years. Currently, Mr. Pickford serves as the president and CEO of the Dulles Area Transportation Association, DATA, a nonprofit organization that strives to find transportation mobility options for employees and residents in Northern Virginia region. And if you don't know, DATA is a organization that came out of Committee for Dulles. So it's one of our children, if you will, as is the Washington Airport's task force. For 8 years, Mr. Pickford serves as the Director of Environmental and Planning Services for Northern Virginia Regional Commission, NVRC, and Director of Planning and Environmental Services for NVRC and Council of Governments located in Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C. He oversaw all policy programmatic responsibilities associated with stormwater management, water quality, solid waste, engineering, land use, transportation, economic development, and community preservation. I understand that he is a graduate of George Mason University. He lives in Northern Virginia and he has 3 grown children. Welcome, please welcome Doug Pickford.
Thank you, Georgia. All those things you rattled off in my past experience gives me a headache. Well, I just want to say good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. I guess I've been asked to come and give a little overview of DATA. Georgia is correct. We were spun off back in the 1980s I think we were a committee to begin with, and the genesis of the creation of DATA as a true public-private partnership was essentially the effort to establish the first transportation tax district in the state of Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I should say. Sid Steele thought it was important to form an organization comprised of both the local elected officials and the private sector to advocate for the passage of that legislation in the General Assembly, and then subsequently to make sure that over the course of the implementation of the transportation improvements, the funding scenarios weren't changed and that the funds were used for the purposes of why the transportation district was created in the first place. So by the late 1990s, roughly, most of those transportation improvements in the corridor had been accomplished, with some exceptions, and DATA pivoted a little bit to starting to work with the major employers and landowners in the greater Dulles area to assist their employees in getting to work outside of sitting in their single occupant vehicle and congestion on our congested roads. So we implement what we call transportation demand management strategies, TDM. And what that encompasses is helping people organize carpools, van pools, using public transportation, and frankly, before the pandemic, trying to convince companies to adopt telework programs, which was actually pretty difficult back in the day, but it's pretty common now. So that transformation occurred in the late 90s, early 2000s, and about 12 years ago, we recognized that there was a need to assist some of the underserved, the lower income hourly wage workers in navigating our transportation system, and particularly those who English is either a second language or they don't speak English at all. And so we applied for some federal funds to work mostly with hotels, some restaurants and what have you. But we hired two bilingual staff people, and they worked with the mainly service oriented staff to form carpools and to navigate our public transportation system. That program was eliminated after about 4 years, and kind of transformed itself into what we call the Enhanced Mobility Program. And the Enhanced Mobility Program focuses on providing transportation services for the elderly and persons with disabilities. And we have been working in that arena for about 8 years now, whereby we started out recruiting volunteer drivers that and put them in a network system that's metropolitan wide, really, that is operated by NV Rides. As we were working with some of our partners, we noticed that there was a need for transportation training. So 3 years ago, I think, or maybe 4 years ago, we started to incorporate a transportation training program where we actually physically take people out, show them how to put money on a smart trip card, ride the bus, transfer to metro, and what have you. As we were working with those partners, we also were asked, well, can we, because of the federal program we get our funding through, really has to be over 65 or persons with disabilities. And when we're working with many of our partners, there were a large group of underserved population. And again, individuals, English was a second language, or they didn't speak English at all, that were having difficulty, that were their clients that were having difficulty getting to work because they couldn't understand and navigate the transportation system. So we've gotten some private funding to do that, and we've been doing that for about 2 years now, and we're pretty excited. We're starting a pilot project in July in eastern Loudoun County, and we're really excited about that. Obviously, the big addition to the region, our service areas, the opening of the Silver Line, Metro's Phase 2 in particular. That is a big emphasis of ours in terms of trying to work with employers in the region to adopt and implement commuter benefit programs. So we have a program that to entice some of the employees to enroll in these programs, we give away preloaded $50 smart trip cards. And it's as Scott knows, we've got a pretty big presence right now out at the airport. It couldn't be bigger, obviously. And through Scott's assistance and some of the work with the DMAC, we've been able to really make some great inroads recently. With that, I mean, a lot of what the travel training program, it really is some pretty much like a workforce development program. And we've been able to work with some of the Centerville Immigration Forum to get a lot of their clients access to the airport, where there's a great need for employees. Really, with the airport's expansion and its predicted growth, finding more workers and getting them to the airport is a big priority for a lot of the companies out there. So in a nutshell, that's basically what the Dulles Area Transportation Association does, and I'd be happy to take questions. Or
Doug, how would, we have one person on here that is from HDR, and how would a company get involved in using data to be able to benefit their employees?
just reach out. All of our services, for the most part, are free of charge. We are primarily funded through state and federal grants, and so we'd be happy to come out and discuss commuter benefit programs. or help you organize van pools, car pools, things of that nature, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to work with him.
And are you primarily in, well, what is your coverage area?
It's pretty, it's too big, but it's essentially eastern Loudoun County, western Fairfax, and the northern uh, portion of Prince William County. Right now, I would have to say that we're very focused on the Silver Line corridor in terms of particularly working with employers, because really that is the great opportunity. These commuter benefit programs are weren't really that attractive for employees or employers without the opening of the Silver Line. But now once that's open, it does become much better viable solution to helping employees offset their commuting costs.
And, how many commuters have you been able to help this year so far?
Uh, that's a good question, Scott. I I'm sure it's been in the thousands, but it's kind of hard to put a number on it. We primarily our points of contact are HR departments, and I will say we've distributed in the last 6 months almost 100 smart trip cards. So those are all new those are new enrollees in the in commuter benefit programs. But there's also a lot of ancillary benefits of putting together information for businesses on options that folks might do, even like bicycling and to work and things of that nature.
Okay. Hey, John, you got a question?
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Doug, great presentation. Hey, just curious if you could share about the corporate social responsibility event that you guys are working on and what you do for veterans. I've heard some good stuff.
Sure, yeah, and I was remiss in not mentioning our veterans. We spun off the when we started doing the volunteer driver recruitment, it really focused on bilingual drivers to assist these organizations. And then in the course of doing that, we found there was a need for veterans, and particularly during the pandemic when everything was basically shutting down. There was a big need to get veterans to their doctor's appointments and their VA appointments. And we got a small pandemic related grant, and we paid for taxi rides for veterans to make it to their VA appointments and things of that nature. We ended up providing over 1,500 rides over the course of a year for veterans. That's also spun off into doing a volunteer veteran recruitment program, veterans helping veterans. And we are pretty active in Prince William County with that program. As all part of this, our work, we've established some really great relationships with a number of volunteer organizations, and they're all facing very similar struggles in trying to find and attract volunteers. So working with one of our partners, Northwest Federal Credit Union, we set up a forum late April. Well, the first forum was in October of last year, where we brought together at that time 20 nonprofit organizations, and then enticed employers, particularly the larger employers in our service area, who may or would like to learn more about a corporate social responsibility program, to get their employees to attend this fair, and the nonprofits could recruit volunteers. There was so much interest in that first forum that we expanded it to 40 nonprofits, and we sold the event out in terms of attendees. And it was a great event in the parking lot of Northwest Federal Credit Union. That was last April, and I'm sure we'll do it again in the next coming year as well. Thanks for bringing that up, John. I forgot about that.
Other questions from folks? Just unmute yourself and
I'd be happy to put my my contact information in the chat if you'd like.
yeah, please do that because we may have a few interested parties here.
Hey, Doug, as you're typing your contact info, curious if you've seen a change from everything used to be, you know, west to east, everybody went to DC. Are you starting to see some traffic patterns change going from the south to the North Prince William to the Dulles corridor to Reston, Tyson's? Because you're probably the canary that can sense and see some of the things that are happening, patterns with housing, et cetera. I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And on top of that, the pandemic really changed commuting patterns pretty dramatically as well. I think the trend of switching from the east-west, you know, the primary radial commuting patterns into the center was on the verge of changing at least 10 years prior to the pandemic. And the result, you saw a lot more north-south. You know, the congestion that you see at the American Legion Bridge is indicative of, you know, a large number of commuters going from Virginia to Maryland, Maryland to Virginia. We have a pretty good concentration, at least pre-pandemic, a good concentration of Maryland residents working in the Dulles corridor. And in fact, right now, Loudoun County is looking at possibly implementing some north-south commuter bus services for their employees. There's a study underway right now. So yes, that is definitely a trend that is increasing. But the pandemic was a huge impact on commuting patterns, and now I would like to, I think the last statistics I saw were about 70% of employees in our region are doing either flexible 3 days of work in the office type of arrangement, and the commuting patterns are very reflective of that. The highest number of employees in the office are on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and the lowest are the Monday and Fridays. And it's also expanded the rush hour hours because a lot of people are also flexing their work schedule, coming in later, like at 10 o'clock, leaving later. So yeah, that's a great question, John. It's been, it's been tough for us in terms of, you know, forming van pools and carpools because of the flexible scheduling has created, you know, you want reliability in the person who's driving that van. And if you're running on a flex schedule, it becomes really difficult to get a consistent ridership base on.
So am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask you what you consider to be a major challenge that you've experienced since you've taken over data.
Funding. From a professional, the pandemic, by and large, was I mean, the benefits of the pandemic was the adoption of a lot of remote working programs and policies, whether they were formalized or not. I think a lot of businesses recognize that having a telework option helps with continuity planning and planning for disasters and things of that nature. But as I just mentioned, from our perspective of trying to get people to form carpools and van pools, the new work scheduling and you know, the flexible scheduling has made it very, very challenging. I know that Enterprise and a couple of the other larger van pool providers have been exploring some some on-demand type of apps that we can use so that you may not have the same consistent 5 or 6 riders, but by using this app, you can pick up riders in your close proximity to where you work, and that way you still get the benefit of the economies of scale, so to speak, of having multiple riders in a van. And then it also obviously allows you to get on a lot of the express lanes that are in our area without having to pay the cost of those express tolls.
So how much of your funding is from the state and versus or federal versus private contributions?
Well, it's about half and half state and federal. And one of our challenges is all these grants require basically a 20% match. So in some ways, unless we are raising funds through our membership fees and our fundraising activities, we do sometimes hit a limit on how much money we can ask for in these grant programs, but it fluctuates too over the years.
So how many members do you have that are actually supporting your grant program? Is there a fee to be a member of DATA?
Yes, we have a membership. We have a membership program based on either square footage or number of employees that are at your site. And we have right now, I want to say 45 paying members.
Are they primarily the Dulles Quarter, Route 28?
Both.
How can Committee for Dulles be helpful in your efforts to encourage companies to work closer with DATA?
Just get the word out, put them in contact with us, and we'll take it from there. Scott's been a great partner over the years, and I have to say that anything we can do to help you too, I would just offer that as well. But frankly, I think it's just primarily getting the word out and giving us introductions. You know, a lot of times it's the toughest part is getting in the door and talking to the right person when we're trying to sell our services to employers. And as I mentioned earlier, we typically like to be introduced to the HR person because then we work through them for the commuter benefits program.
So is there a certain sweet spot size company that is a better match for you?
I would say 25 employees or more. I think that company they have a full-time HR. I mean, we'll work with anyone, but I think that having a full-time HR person on board makes our job a little bit easier.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
But if not,
No,
well, thank you very much.
I don't have any more questions or comments, but thank you, Doug, for coming on and
Yeah,
speaking. to
really
us
appreciate
today.
it, and thank you for your time, and thank you, members who have participated today.
Thank you. Take care.
Alrighty, bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See ya. Thank you all.